Noah, a few generations later, caused lots of languages to form and caused people to spread out, and they stayed with people who were of the same language so that they could understand each other, right? You know about that?
Yeah.
Okay. Once they moved and they were scattered in different places, God probably changed all of their appearances as well to make them all look like each other and to stand out different from other people. It's very simple, right? And you wouldn't even notice the change because you're now like in North America, right? You've walked across the Bering Strait, you're in North America, he makes you look different than everybody else. You wouldn't notice it because you don't see other people. And I think that's a very simple way to understand it. But again, in 2 generations, he could make everybody look different, and what's the big deal? Now, Dr. Emmett Buse also said, in my situation, he suggested I should get a sterile woman because I mentioned that I resolved not to have kids and no woman wants to marry me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mazel tov on being the 10 millionth person to suggest that. Sterile, frum women all insist on adopting. I even know of one that was born without a uterus, and she insists on adopting multiple kids. Watch my latest video, folks.
Yeah.
Ellen's in the room. Say hi, Ellen.
Hey, Ellen.
She asks, would it be kashrut to have Torah action figures, or would that be too close to idols? Well, I don't know about idols, but I think it would be in bad taste. I was grossed out when they had Rebbe baseball cards about 25 years ago. I don't know if you were around for that.
I'm aware of it. They still have them.
They still have them?
Yeah.
I think that's just bad. You know, you see kids trading like, you know, I'll trade you 2 Rav shots for a Sanzer Rav. I mean, it brings it down to like, I don't like it. That's me personally. I don't think it's a problem of idols, though. Ellen also asks, since when did Rabbs start selling a Rabbi Rabbs ornament online at Cafe Press? Okay, when I read that, it kind of freaked because I think I know who you are. But I have a problem because Facebook broke. Okay, because I think you just added me recently on Facebook, like in like the last month. Because I remember when I went over, see when people add me on Facebook, I go over to their page for the first time, right? And I drop on, you know, like, you know, thanks for the ad. Whatever. It doesn't get more Jewy than Rabbs, and I have a picture of one of my models modeling a Rabbs T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember somebody underneath that commented, and they said, "Where do I get one of those shirts or something?" And I posted the link, and not many people ever ask that question. They don't care, you know, like they're not interested in buying a shirt or anything, right? So they got the link, and they went to Cafe Press, and they said, "Oh, something like there's interesting things over there." So I know they actually went, and then I get this thing like that I'm selling ornaments. I had to go look. Turns out I'm selling ornaments. I don't know what's in the store. I'm not even in charge of it. It's not even my thing, you know. It's just the whatever. So I think that's who that is. But then I went to Facebook to try to figure out who's like my most recent friends that have added me. That feature is broken.
Yeah.
It's broken on yours too?
I couldn't find it.
It's broken. So I can't figure out who this person is, but I think she added me recently. Beth. Is Beth in the room?
No.
She said, if I have homosexual sex while eating lobster, does that count as 2 sins, or did I get a pass on 1? And the answer is you did 2.
So cut that out.
Why?
Telling Beth
Well,
to
unless
stop
they're
eating lobster while having homosexual sex.
Well,
Like, try to like narrow your sins down just like one at a time.
well, if she's not Jewish, then the lobster wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
Beth also said, aren't kosher laws like drawing Muhammad is supposed to be? It's only a violation for Jews, just like drawing Muhammad is only supposed to be forbidden to Muslims. I can't answer for Islam. I don't know those rules. But according to Judaism, only Jews must keep kosher dietary laws, as we just said. Non-Jews must not eat
Aver Menachai.
Aver Menachai, which is
the limb of a living animal.
Thank you. Beth said, which eye? Because we talked about eye for an eye. And we said it's the monetary value of the eye. That, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she said, my left one is much prettier, but the right one sees better. How do I judge the value of that? So I said, that's a great question. The Torah and Baba Kama, and the Talmud Baba Kama discusses it. When there's like the Nezek Star Bush, there's different types of damage payments. Like when you go to court and you sue somebody, you can sue them for damages, and then you can also put a penalty on it, or what is it called?
Pain and suffering.
No, you like, I don't know what they call it, but they do the same. I think they got that from Torah, Because the Torah tells us to determine how much you would pay not to lose that eye. That's the first thing. How much would you pay not to lose your eye? That tells you one way it's valued. It also tells us that how much you are worth in the working world with the addition of that eye as opposed to without it. You start adding up all of these things. Plus you get compensated for your pain by how much would you pay not to suffer that pain. Plus you get compensated for your medical bills, lost wages while recuperating. There's all, you can run up the bill on the person. Baba Metzias, is he still in the room?
Mm-hmm.
He said, why do we have Niddelnacht? This is a great question. In our conversation last week, I said that in America, American Christians are not going to kill the Jews. Right? Remember me talking about this a little bit? I said, we don't have to worry about Christian, because I said, some secular Jews get all bent out of shape with, Christians. Oh, it's Christmas! I don't want anything to do with Christmas. Remember I went on that whole rant? So we said, what about Niddelnacht? Do you know what Niddelnacht is?
Is that Christmas Eve?
Yes, but why is it called Niddelnacht? What does Niddelnacht mean?
Nacht means night. Right?
Night means... Nacht means night. What is Niddle?
Something bad. So traditional Jews don't study Torah on...
Okay, niddle means hung. It means to hang. It's the night of the hanging. Okay, so the history on that, let me just give you some quick background. I want to drink water first. I want to give...
Folks, this is Torah Talk. I'm Levi Ben Abraham, a.k.a. Luke Ford, with Rabbi Rabbs. This week's Torah portion is Vayechi, which is the last couple of chapters in the book of Genesis. And right now we're going over last week's chat questions that you didn't get to in last week's show.
Okay. Baba Metzias. So the background on Niddelnacht was, it used to be like in the times of the pogroms, when we were in Eastern Europe at the in Poland, these places in Russia. The way of the Goyim back then, and this is European Christians, this is not American Christians. And it's important to recognize the difference, because my whole point was we're in America, we're not in Europe, and they're not to be compared. Okay? In Europe, in Poland, the Goyim, what did they do on Christmas Eve? They would get drunk. And when they get drunk, what do they like to do the most?
Beat up Jews.
Beat the fuck out of Jews, right? That's what they do. They go looking for Jews. Now, where do you find Jews? In Beis Midrash.
Yeah.
Because we're sitting there and learning Torah. Right? So they would go into the Beis Midrash, they would pull a couple of Jews out, and they would lynch them, they would hang them and kill them, and that was like Christmas fun. That's how the Goyim celebrated Christmas. So the rabbis got together and they decreed that Jews should not learn Torah on Christmas Eve because that would cause them to go to the Beis Midrash, and that would be a sakana nefashos. It would be a danger, right? Because they may get schlepped out and hung. So they should leave the Beis Midrashes empty, and everybody should, not learn Torah. So that was what Niddelnacht is all about. In America, there's no... Goyim don't do that. You don't see Goyim going to the Beis Midrash and yanking Jews out, right? So that's not a real fear, but we follow Niddelnacht. Why? Because it's minhag avosenu biyadenu. That's once a minhag is established, a custom is established, it becomes like Jewish law, and it must be followed from generation to generation. Since our previous generations followed it, we still follow it today. Therefore, we don't go to the Beis Midrash, and we don't to learn on Christmas Eve. Now, what's interesting is there's two Christmas Eves. In Poland, it was a Catholic country, and the Catholics follow it on December 24th, Christmas Eve. But in Russia, it's an Orthodox Christmas, so they follow it in January 5th or whatever the hell it is, right? So in America, which one do you follow? That's a question. That's a whole long explanation.
So what do you do on Niddelnacht? Do you play cards, or do you read secular literature?
I surf for porn. I go to lukeford.com. All right. Baba Mitzi asked another question. He said, what about a Pelagish? Because we were talking about...
What about on Tisha B'Av?
Well, that's a difference.
You're not allowed to search for porn on Tisha B'Av.
I would no. That's not good, because in one of the five
and
things
you're not allowed to study Torah either.
One of the 5 things you're not allowed to do is you're not allowed to have sex on Tisha B'Av.
Right.
So
no sex, no onanism, no surfing for porn, and no study of Torah.
On the night of Tisha B'Av, unless you want to learn Gittin, you can learn Gittin. You can learn Gittin though.